Well, the cost of living is rising, and also the concern of what we have inside of our food is through the roof. You should be cooking more from scratch. Well, do you like pineapple upside down cake? Well, grab a seat. Dad's going to show you how to make it. What Dad can do. So let's go over the ingredients. The first thing we're going to talk about is the topping. It's requiring a 1/4 cup of melted butter. You'll need a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Now, I use the light brown sugar, but when you do this, you want it compacted. All right, so I'm just going to load it. Compact that brown sugar in there. Half a cup of compacted brown sugar. And the next thing is going to be the pineapple. All right, so just calling for a 20-ounce can. I used to use the circles. I used to use the little tiny square pieces, but I found the crushed pineapple allows me to have flavor in every single portion of my pineapple upside down cake. So I've moved to that. So what we've got to do with this is a little different. We're going to take all of this pineapple out of the juice. So I'm going to grab a strainer and a cup. I'm going to remove the juice from it. Now, pretty simple process. So if you have one of these small strainers like this, works out great. We're going to get a measuring cup for it to sit on and sift out. And I'm going to open that can. Now, I really love these openers here. They're the type that cuts the can open and doesn't leave the sharp edges. So I'm simply going to break this open. And I'm going to put this right over the top of it, folks, like this. And I'm going to dump it right in over our measuring cup. Make sure you can see this. I'm going to allow that to drain. Now, while that's draining, all the excess juice out of there so it don't end up soggy once we start making our pineapple upside down. I'll show you folks what else is going in there. Maraschino cherries. Now, I like to get the sliced ones. If you can't find the sliced one, you'll just have to cut them in half yourself. Or if you want to use the whole ones, they're just going to be thicker in the layer of topping. So, the cherries. My wife doesn't like the maraschino cherries, so I usually try and make a portion of it without them for her. And that's going to be our topper. I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. The other ingredients that we'll need is we need a 1/2 cup of softened butter. So you leave it out at room temperature, and once it's around room temperature, it'll be easy enough because you're going to have to cream that in with the sugar here shortly. You need 3/4 cup of sugar. So I've already measured out 3/4 cup of sugar here. We'll need a teaspoon of vanilla. Got the extract out and ready. We'll need a 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour sifted. We're going to sift that when we get that flour. We'll show you that. And we'll need 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. We already got that measured out. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And 1/2 cup of milk. All right, so all the ingredients are pre-measured out. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and start the top. So the topper is going to require this butter to be melted. So I like to go ahead and put it inside of the 9x9 that I'm actually going to bake it in. And I sit it in the oven for like 5 minutes or so, and let it melt. Oven's going to be at 350 degrees, and I go ahead and drop that in there. Works out great. We'll be right back. All right, butter's melted, fresh out of the oven. Just going to go ahead and drop that brown sugar right in there. I'm going to use the fork to break it up and spread it out. Now, I kind of play this by ear each time as I'm spreading it out here to see if it's enough butter, enough sugar to make me a nice coating through. And sometimes it's okay to go ahead and do this to spread that butter and the brown sugar together. Because once it's all mixed up, you can flatten it back out. But you want to make sure you got a nice little layer that's going to house the cherries and the pineapple. It's looking a little thin, so I'll probably add a little more brown sugar. To make sure we got a nice platform and great flavor in every forkful. So yeah, I think I'm going to add just a little bit more in some of the more scarce areas, just to make sure we've got a good topping base. All right, so I'll trickle some in some of these areas. And it doesn't take a whole lot. But as you can see, just filling it. I like to make sure that I don't have a lot of open areas through my topping. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Next thing we're going to do, and we need to do it in this order for it to look right, we want to put the cherries in place. Now I'm going to use a fork and a pickle fork as I go to pull the cherries out. Now again, I'm going to leave a portion of this open for my wife. You know, she eats pretty good for a little lady, but she doesn't consume a lot of these heavy calorie items that much. So all of the excessive cherries are going to be just for me. All right, so you'll notice that I'm putting the cherries in with the round portion downward. It just helps with the aesthetics once the upside down cake is done. Again, I use the crushed pineapples because, again, I like to have it all in all the bites. So you'll see I use quite a few cherries compared to maybe some of the other ones that you folks have made yourself or had, where they're just cherries in the middle of the pineapple circle. So I like to cherry it up. You can stop wherever you feel it's enough. But again, folks, this is what's so wonderful about cooking from scratch. You don't have to worry about what they have in the store that's pre-made. This is your creation. All right, cherrying it up. Again, I'm going to leave a portion of that for the wife. All right. And now for the portion that makes our pineapple upside down cake pineapple. All right, I'm going to take that pineapple that's been draining, and we're going to just spread that across just like we did with the brown sugar. I'm going to take that fork, I'm going to cast it throughout the entire pan. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to spread it in just a second. But I'm making it a little easier by casting it sporadically. All right, and now I'm going to start kind of making sure we got a level layer of pineapple throughout the pan. I'm going to fill all of those bare pineapple spots. Again, I'm trying to make sure I've got it to every corner. Now, some of you have been cooking for a long time may say, hey, that doesn't matter. The flavor's going to be there, but I like for every forkful to be full of all the flavors. So it's not necessary, but it's the process I go through. All right. That is the pineapple set up in the pineapple upside down cake. All right. I'm going to set that to the side and we're going to move to the actual cake portion. I'm going to reposition you folks so you can see that. I'm going to use the bread mixer to finish it off. And we'll be right back. Now folks, we're all ready to start the cake portion. Now, I'm going to use my bread mixer, but you don't have to use that. You can use a regular mixer or you can do it by hand. But the first thing it's going to ask us to do is to cream our stick of butter. I'm using unsalted butter. I don't think the salted butter is going to make much of a difference unless your taste buds are just that acute. And we're going to cream that for a minute. So I'm going to turn it on. Pull the bowl up. I'm going to let that run for a moment. Now my recipe calls for that to happen for a minute. And basically, just want to make sure that butter is nice and creamy. I like to run the speed up and down to kind of swing it out of the whip. Know how it kind of squeezes it there. And then it asks us to put the sugar in, let it cream for another minute. So I'm going to add the sugar. Really well. And just like with everything else, I kind of like to give it just a little bit of help. And make sure we get a mix, and we don't have to wait so long for everything. Get a little bit of help there. I'm going to let that mix itself in there so everything's together, the sugar and the butter. All right, that's looking pretty good so far. Now we're going to add the eggs one at a time. Let's put this pocket on the side here. Egg number 2. We'll let that run. We're getting along pretty good there. I'm going to put that teaspoon of vanilla in. All right. to make sure that's mixed in all together really well before I start putting the dry ingredients. Put that down and grab it off the walls here. Again, you can do this with a regular little mixer or by hand if necessary. All right, looking great. So now what it's calling for is a cup and a half of flour, sifted. So I've got a great little sifter here. If you don't have one of these, you can use a strainer, much like the one I used for the pineapple, where you can put it inside of here and tap the sides of it to sift it into your bowl. But I do have a sifter, and so I am going to get a leveled scoop of flour. And that's going to be our 1 cup. Calls for a cup and a half. We're going to do the same thing with the half a cup. All right. That's 1.5 cups of flour. And this sifter is so wonderful. It's really fast. Let's sift this flour. It's asking for us to put the baking powder and the salt in with the flour. So I'm going to just go ahead and put those in while I'm sifting. Now, the sifting of the flour makes the cake lighter. If you don't sift it, you're not going to kill it, but you'll find that it's a more dense cake than the sifted flour. So I sift it out. It's worth it in the long run. All right. 1.5 cups of sifted flour. And I am going to, of course, kick those around just a little bit before I add them into the rest of those wet ingredients. All right. Okay. Now I'm going to add this to the wet ingredient. Right on in there. Let it continue. And last but not least is going to be our milk. Now, I'm going to give you folks one of my little secrets I've had for decades. People seem to love my pineapple upside down cake, and they try to find out what I've done different. Now, folks, here it is. I'm going to reveal it for the first time. All I do, different from most folks, is I add a little bit of pineapple juice into my milk. And when I say a little bit, I mean a little bit. Right, not very much. So that takes me just a little above the half cup that's required. And I just add that to my dough. Now, it does make the cake a little wetter. And when it's cooking, it may take a little longer, but it takes that pineapple flavor from just being in the top all the way down through the cake itself. So, you folks heard it first. All right, that's all I do different. So let me pour some of these items out. I'm going to make sure Let it mix in well. Shake this off. Pull it off of the walls. We're going to let it run pretty good here. Get it free. All right, it's looking pretty good. Let's drop the bowl as we spin it. Now, I like to do this. It helps get the batter off the whip. Okay. All right, there's our cake batter. Now that's all prepped. We're going to bring our topping back, which is in our pan already. I'm going to take the bowl out of here, and folks, we're just going to add it to the pan. Now, this is going to be so delicious. Again, the oven is preheated to 350 degrees. And it's already ready already. All right. Squeegee it all in there. I don't like to waste anything. And for two reasons. One, it's waste, and I was taught against that, but also it makes cleanup a lot easier when you scrape the bowl the way I did. So, two benefits to it. All right, folks. So here we go. Batter's in. I'm going to spread that as even as we can around the pan. Now, it's called pineapple upside down cake because it's baked upside down. And when we're done, we're actually going to flip it. What's the bottom is going to be the top, and what's the top is going to be the bottom. Now, I say that at this point for two reasons. One, to let you know that this is not how it's going to be in the end. And the other thing is to let you know that you don't have to put a lot of effort into how the bottom of this cake is going to look. All right. So it's all spread there, and we're going to take it over to the oven. Now we're going to put that in the oven. It's going to bake for anywhere between 40-45 minutes, and we'll have our pineapple upside down cake. Let's go to the oven. All right, 350 degrees on the middle rack. Going in, and we're going to set our time for 42 minutes so we can come back and check it. Timer set, 42 minutes, and we're off. We'll be back when the timer goes off to see how our pineapple upside down cake is going. All right, the timer is going off. We'll check and see if it's all ready. Looks a bit light. So we'll get something to check. All right, let's see if this comes out without any sticky dough. Well, still got a little bit of wet dough. So we'll go back in for another 5 minutes. We'll go to the max 45. And hopefully that'll be all it needs. All right, beep number 2. All right, looks more like it. Yeah, almost. It's just a little bit moist, and you can see that movement. Let you know it's a little bit soft in there, but we are in the neighborhood. Go for 5 more. I'm hoping that'll be it. All right, timer's going off. Let's give it a run. Smells delicious. Okay. I think we are good to go. All right. Cancel that. I'll move this and get the pan up here. Sit that there. Now I cut a piece of parchment paper so they won't stick. And primarily what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out and let it cool for a little bit before we flip it over. I've been flipping it over while it's still hot. I end up having to try to work some of the top of the pineapple upside down cake out. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that out. Just wanted you folks to see I cut that parchment paper so that it'll fit there. And I'll just sit it out and let it cool. We'll be back when it's time to make the upside down cake upside down. Okay, folks, we're on the last leg of this race. I'm just going to run this knife around and make sure that the cake is free from the pan. And now we go upside down. I like to do this way. I put this platform over the top and just flip it over. And there's our upside down cake. Looks great, smells great. I think we've got a great outcome. Folks, it's just as easy as that. Now, I'll cut it into pieces so it's easy to access as we want, but I'm going to let it cool a little more so that the moisture doesn't build up in it. This is a wet type of cake, so the lifespan on it's probably going to be about 6 days, 6 to 7 days. But it is fresh, delicious, and made from what you have at home. And that's just one more thing Dad can do.